Hey, what up? Thank you for joining me. We're going to be talking about the Springbok team that has just been released for the game against the Barbarians. It's the first test, the excitement, the charts, the first test for the Springboks in the season. And on the press conference, when they released this team, we had Rassie was there and Vincent Tshituka was there. He's in the starting lineup. So we're going to talk about him, as well as what Rassie said when he was speaking about Morne, Asenathi, who's also in the starting lineup, as well as why the team is composed the way it is. My name is Tony. Welcome to Sports Cartel. Let's get into it. So as you can see the team up on the screen, but I'm just going to pick out a few strands from the team announcement, some individuals I want to speak about. So here we go. The first one I want to speak about is the one that I think Rassie spent a lot of time in his press conference talking about him, and that is Asenathi. He spoke about how they have invested in Asenathi from under 20 days, as well as investing in him, tracking him for like 2-3 years, seeing how he's doing, seeing how they can fit him in and keep on talking to him, and as well as putting up a private program that he had, especially since the second alignment camp this year, where they gave him a private program that he was going to be doing with Don Humans. So supposedly go to Don's farm and actually work with Don in terms of the scrummaging, in terms of what is expected of a prop in the Springbok colours. And for me, that is so Rassie-like, because 3 years ago, yes, Asenathi was making his way through the Lions, but a lot of us didn't really have him in the picture at that time, but Rassie had a plan for him. That is even before last year's World Cup. So the planning was there for him, and now it's time for him to show what is worth. And the interesting part about it, he mentioned that he's a little bit slimmer because he came in above 140 kilograms when he came into camp before this Barbarian game, and now he's lost about 10 to 15 kilograms. That is three just born babies, the size of like three just born babies. So they've been working him out, and he also spoke about the fitness test that they did, and it was brutal. And I think you've seen a lot of quotes from other players talking about how brutal it's been. So yeah, I'm looking forward to see how he goes. He's someone that I think can become a cult hero. I think if you remember how Oli Leroux was a cult hero. So, man, all the best to Asenathi, man. I think he can become like a fan favorite. So let's see what he does on Saturday. And then, of course, like I said, at the press conference, there was Vincent Tshituka. As you know, the history of Vincent, he's a Congolese descent, and, he came into playing for the Lions and shone for the Sharks as well. And it's always been for the fans how long it's going to take for him to make it into the Springboks, but he had that issue with the passport that was taking some time to come out. So it finally came out, and he was immediately roped into play, to the Springbok camp. This is not, of course, a cap match where he's going to get a cap, but he's going to be starting in a game for the Springboks, and hopefully, he can make a big chance of it. The interesting thing about this is that he's going to be playing in the back row with Sia. So I think Sia is going to be assisting him in terms of acclimatizing and how to play, as well as what is expected of him as a number 7. So let's see how that goes. We also got Jean-Luc as part of the back three, and let's see how that goes. But the interesting part is, I think Rassie, they're still searching for that number 7. I did a video, I think some of you guys have seen it, where I was advocating for Cameron Hancom to actually move to concentrate on number 7, and I think that's his best path to be a mainstay in the Springbok team. So that he's not there at number 8, because I think they're looking for a different profile of a player at number 8, and I'm going to talk about that later in the video. But the number 7 spot is still up for grabs, especially behind Peter Steff. I'm not really sure about Dixon personally. Some other guys like him, but I think that number 7 spot is still up for grabs. I don't know what you guys think. You can comment downstairs and let me know what you think about that. And then there is also Morne that was mentioned a lot during the press conference, especially by Rassie. And he spoke about how he's so focused in terms of his role. He knows his role particulars, what is expected of him from the Springboks. He also spoke about his fitness, how fit he is. I think during the fitness test, he's one of the best performers there. And another sort of soundbite that I think is going to be very important going forward, especially in the scrum-half position. Rassie said he voted when they were voting for the URC as coaches and players and journalists and stuff like that. He voted for Morne to be the URC team of the year, team of the season, I should say. So that now makes me think. I think Morne skipped Jaden. I think Morne is ahead of Jaden. And Jaden I'm a Shark supporter. The guy was frustrating the whole season. So I'm not surprised. I wasn't surprised when he was let go. But the mere fact that all the things that matter to Rassie, he attributed them to Morne in terms of fitness, in terms of knowing your role. And also he actually nominated him throughout the season when he wasn't working with him. He was still, during the season playing with the Lions. But when he came to camp, he was still performing at a top level, things that they are looking forward to. So I don't know how Jaden is going to be sneaked into the team unless there's an injury going forward. But I think he's going to have trouble coming into the team ahead of Morne going forward. Yeah, okay, and I wonder what you guys think about what I'm saying now. But yeah, so let's have a look at some of the guys that are knocking on the door, and I think that they have to do something to actually stay in the team. So one of the guys that I think knocking on the team, and there's still room for him to move into the team or to the squad, because behind Bonambi and Marks, there's still that vacancy for number 3, and people are fighting over it, is Mannie van der Merwe. He was playing well for the Scarlets this year during the URC, and the little I saw of him is that he's more of a mobile hooker. I saw a couple of times when I'm watching the game, he does a lot of offloads, and maybe, they're looking at Marks and saying, who can play like Marks? Bonga is more in the close quarters, and Marks does the close quarters, but also in the wide channels as well. So I think Manus there as well is being picked to play that role. How can we get momentum and go forward the wider channels with a hooker, or who can be a type of flanker, I should say. So I think he needs to have a good game to actually stake a claim there. Another one is Littling for Share. He was there last year. He didn't get a cap. And I think he's behind Mahurba and Vincent Koch. But I think as well, Mahurba is having a lot of injuries. So I think there's a chance for him to do something, puts his hand up and actually bang the door down. So those are the two guys. Another one that I've never really understood this one, the Jean-Luc Dupree situation. I've watched a few games of the Cell Sharks, and yeah, he plays well, but I think when I was speaking about number 7 and what I think that they're looking for in the number 7, I think Jean-Luc fits into the mold of what they're looking for at number 8, the bulky guy who can close quarters, get those hard yardage close to the scrums or around the rocks and so forth, close combat. So yeah, I think that's why he's there. In terms of what I've seen, when I've seen the games from the Sharks, he's playing. He doesn't stand out, but I think maybe, the coaches know better, of course. But yeah, it's interesting that he's sort of jumped Evan Roos. As much as Evan Roos wasn't chosen in the initial squad, he's in the squad now. But they rather give Jean-Luc Dupree a chance to have a stake at that, to claim that position. So yeah, I think that's another guy that needs to have a good performance to prove that he can play behind Visser and so forth. So Rassie also spoke about the team composition. What was the thinking in terms of putting the team together? And he mentioned this when he was speaking about Jean Klein and Lut Dihage, but I think it goes for other players in the team as well. When he spoke about that, he wants to bring them up to speed. They haven't been around the team, especially Lut has had a bad run of injuries. Jean Klein had a terrible run of injuries last year, but Lut for a longer period. So they just want to bring them up to speed as well as get them acclimatized to what they're doing as a team. The last time Lut actually was properly embedded in the Springbok team was before the Rugby World Cup. So I can see why they're trying to give him as much game time as possible. And the fact that last year we had a terrible run of injuries in terms of the locks. And I think it's quite a relief that you're getting Jean Klein and Lut there to give them a chance to actually bring up their player minutes. He also mentioned that as much as Lut was injured, the other benefit of being injured is that he wasn't playing rugby, which means his body got to recover. I think that is also looking towards the next World Cup, that Lut, for the better part of 2 years, hardly played. So he might have extended his lifespan in terms of playing international rugby into the next World Cup. He also mentioned about Sasha when he was asked about what he's expecting Sasha to do. He said, we are expecting him to be able to show his flair, but 70% of what he does, he needs to be for the Springbok team, and then 30% he can show his flair there. So I think they've designed parameters for him to say, okay, this is the areas that we want to play in, or how we want to play. You have to fit in yourself in terms of your flair, in terms of what we want to do. And another nice touch that I thought was very nice touch, and I think some people might miss this as well. He mentioned, that is Rassie, he mentioned that at some stage during the season, should everything go according to plan, a younger player would be given a chance to captain the Springboks, which I think that is so awesome. I think last year when Sia wasn't playing, he had Morat that was captaining, and I think with the locks now, almost everyone is back. There's hardly anyone injured. Morat's chances of actually playing are going to be less, especially with Rassie trying to get Lut and Jean-Luc up to speed. So Morat's chances of playing are going to be less, which now means that should Sia take a chance or take a break, there's going to be a space for a new captain. I'm wondering who it is. I wonder who it could be in terms of the younger guys or the newer guys. So take a guess, I guess, Players that I would have loved to see. I would have loved to see Asenathi. Last year he was in the alignment camp, but he never made it to a game squad. And I think he deserves it. Maybe they're saving him for against Italy to give him a test cap in a proper competitive environment rather than playing against the Barbarians, which is more of an exhibition. But I'd love to see Asenathi, not only because I'm a Sharks supporter, but, I think the guy is good. I think he's the future. He's the future. And with abilities going down, I think that number 13 jersey behind Jesse, I think he can stake a claim for that. But we'll see, of course. Another guy that I would have liked to see, I would have liked Mannie to start from the beginning and show what he can do, because I think the game at the beginning will be more tighter, which means more tactical kicking your penalties. And then in the second half, it's going to be looser, and that's when he'll most probably get a chance because he's on the subs bench. But I would have liked him to see him start, especially since he's also been injured most of the season for the Stormers. Give him a chance, get his playing minutes under the belt up and see what he can do going into the season proper. And then I've mentioned this guy before, but a player that I'm really worried about is Evan Roos. It just clears daylight now that maybe Rassie is not too convinced with this guy. So that's it for the team. I think you can see the rest of the team. I'll put it up. I wonder what you guys think. Who are you worried about? Are you happy with Evan Roos not getting a chance? Would you have liked to see Asenathi? I would have loved to see Asenathi. What are your expectations for the game? And yeah, let's get into the conversation. It's exciting times. This is the season now, that we get going. Thank you for the new subscribers. Thank you for guys that are commenting. If you go down to comments in terms of the videos, you'll see that I'll probably like 99% engaged with all comments. Each and every comment I engage with. So please do get involved. And last but not least, please like and please follow. It's Tony. I'm out.